The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most misunderstood tissues in the human body. We're talking about adipose tissue, or as you probably know it, body fat. And trust me, it's way more than just storage. It's a dynamic, essential organ.
So let's just kick things off with a big question. We usually think of fat as something we want less of, right? But what if it's actually one of our body's most sophisticated and vital systems? It's time to challenge that whole idea. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to nail down what adipose tissue actually is. Then, we'll zoom way in for a look under the microscope. We'll break down the difference between white fat and brown fat, cover all the surprising jobs it has, and finally, wrap it all up with a totally new way to think about this stuff. To really get a grip on adipose tissue, we've got to start from square one. And that means answering a really basic question. What even is a tissue in the first place? Okay, so a tissue is basically a team of cells. They all come from the same place when you're developing as an embryo, and they all work together to do one specific job. You can think of it like a specialized department in the giant company that is your body. Now, within that, you've got these major categories, and one of the biggest is connective tissue. The name kind of gives it away, right? It's the body's glue, it's scaffolding, it binds, supports, and protects pretty much everything. And boom, this is exactly where our topic fits in. Adipose tissue is a special kind of loose connective tissue, and it's mostly made up of these amazing cells that have one primary mission: storing fat. So what do these fat-storing cells actually look like when you get up close and personal? Well, let's zoom in and meet the star of the show. These cells are called adipocytes. And let me tell you, they are absolute masters of one thing and one thing only: storing lipids. That's just the scientific word for fats. They're basically tiny, super efficient biological warehouses for energy. Now check this out, because you can really see how dedicated these cells are to their job. On the left is an illustration, and on the right, that's the real deal from a microscope. See that massive yellow blob in the middle? That's the stored fat. It takes up so much space, it literally shoves the cell's nucleus and all the other parts right up against the edge. It's pretty wild. Okay, but here's where it gets even cooler. Not all fat is the same. Your body actually has two totally distinct types of adipose tissue, and honestly, they have completely different personalities and jobs. The difference between white and brown fat is like night and day. On the left, you've got white fat with that one giant drop of lipids. It's built for long-term storage. But brown fat, on the right, it's totally different. It has lots of smaller droplets, and it's jam-packed with mitochondria, the little power plants in our cells. Its job isn't to store energy, but to burn it like a tiny furnace to create heat. So white fat is the one we're all familiar with. It's the most common type we have as adults. And here's a fun fact. Ever wondered why it looks kind of yellow? It's because of something called carotene that you get from eating plants. Its main gigs are being our long-term energy savings account, insulating us from the cold, and acting as a natural bubble wrap for our organs. Brown fat, on the other hand, is a metabolic powerhouse. You find a lot of it in babies. That baby fat is actually a high-tech personal heating system to keep them warm. As adults, we still have some mostly hanging out around our neck and collarbones. And because of all those mitochondria, it's incredibly good at burning fat to produce heat directly. That process is called thermogenesis. So we've covered energy storage and making heat, but that's not the whole story. Not by a long shot. It turns out fat wears a lot more hats and plays some other really critical roles in the body. I mean, just look at this list. It's pretty impressive. Adipose tissue is a serious multitasker. It's our main energy bank, our personal insulation, a shock absorber for our organs, and it even works as a filler, providing support in places like behind our eyeballs. A huge chunk of our body fat is located in this layer right here, the hypodermis, just underneath the skin. This subcutaneous fat is the perfect example of fat doing multiple jobs at once. It's not just storing energy, it's also giving us that crucial layer of insulation and physically connecting our skin to the muscles and bones beneath. And this cushioning job is absolutely life-saving. I mean, think about it for a second. Your delicate kidneys, the back of your eyes, they're literally packed in a protective layer of fat. This padding shields them from all the bumps and jolts of everyday life. Without it, they'd be incredibly vulnerable.
So now that we've seen all the different jobs that fat does, it's pretty clear we need to totally reframe how we think about it. This stuff is anything but lazy or passive.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. Adipose tissue is not just sitting there. It's an active, complex, and vital organ system. It's constantly working to manage our energy, regulate our temperature, and keep us safe. It's a fundamental part of what keeps us going. So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. Now that you know fat is an essential, multitasking organ, how does that change the way you think about its role in our health and our biology? Thanks for watching.